Are you aware that this is actually a modern day lynching? This is the modern day KKK. They don't have to wear a sheet anymore because they feel obligated that they can just show their face nowadays, just put on the badge, and they can just execute you. They can annihilate you. They can just shoot you. This is the case with Sonya Massey, a 36-year-old lady. I'm sure everyone heard it by now. Nonetheless, I'm praying that I should give you a better insight of some things that was difficult to find in certain videos, but I try to depict them all, making certain that what I see is real. It's very hard and difficult to watch such a traumatizing event that happened to this young lady, the mother of 2 children, and asking for help. Notwithstanding, she called the Grand Wizard. Oh yes, the Grand Wizard. If you're unfamiliar with the Grand Wizard, this is the leader of the KKK. It started in 1865, actually in Tennessee. And why is it that this continued to be pursued by certain individuals? Because the system from the Capitol building, 1901, Ted Roosevelt turned into the White House, where they monopolize the system. It gives people today that wear that uniform, and I'm not saying all of them, but there are those who are racist, looking forward to executing black people. Now, you don't see them attempting to execute an Asian, a Mexican, Arabian. Now, I'm not trying to debunk my brothers, but you don't see this happen. As a matter of fact, they don't try to annihilate and execute a Jews. You don't see the police officer doing this to other people other than us. They won't even execute an African. Yes, there's a difference between the black people in America and the African. That's why I can't say I'm an African American, because when they come over and receive the citizenship of the United States, then what are they? So therefore, I kind of try to allow us as black people to distinguish ourselves from everyone else. We're in it alone. And this is why it's happening. We were part of the diaspora, the greatest kidnapping in history. And the Klan's member, the Ku Klux Klan, it started in 1865 because it was the abolishment of slavery. And this is why if you were not part of these people, those people that were slave, then they wouldn't bother you. Why? Because we are a threat. This is towards us. It is a perpetual crime. It's a Pandora box. It's the manifestation of modern day lynching without the noose. You don't need one now. You don't have time to tie the noose. Just shoot. Go to people's home. We call them for help. This young lady, she asking for help. There was an intruder that she proclaimed that was in her home. And the officer himself said, go get the water. It's hot. It's boiling. Might catch the house on fire. Just only to set her up for an execution. Nonetheless, my heart goes out to the young officer that was attempting to revive her. I began to watch the body cam through other officer, and I realized while everyone were talking and asking what happened, this particular officer was over there tending to her with his first aid kit. By himself. He kept yelling to the rest of the officer. She's still gasping for air. And to go on. She's still gasping for air. He said about 3 times. And then all of a sudden he said, she's no longer gasping for air. Now at this time, the paramedic's there. I'm unaware of it until he's like, do you want me to stop? And when he stopped, he got up, and that's when I realized the ambulance, the people there, it was another young white man and a white lady, and they were just dialoguing. They supposed to relieve him. They supposed to check on this officer and check on this lady. But they left it there just like they did in some of the pictures. You go back in history, you see that some black people are hanging from a tree, and we speaking on behalf of lynching, and people taking a photo with them. This guy who was devastated, it was very obvious that he was devastated and he was traumatized. He immediately went past everyone else and went to his vehicle, popped the trunk, and he was shaking so severely, and just taking a deep breath. as a man do when he's trying to hold back his cry. He was pretty much just out of it. And it's sad that even if you're a white person, sometime working beside someone who is white, a white supremacist, it's amazing that what he end up doing, the ramification is it causes you to be caught up in something that can be traumatized. But to him, it's victory. You know, all these things continue to happen. And you know, people like, well, how do you know you just now you become an extremist? How you know that this is part of the KKK? Well, how about George Floyd? Remember Derek Chauvin, as he put his knee on his throat? Are you aware during his trial, they laid off, well, not laid off, but they made 8 officers of color stay home. Officers. Now remember, color doesn't matter. Well, how come when it was time for his trial, one of the grand wizard, they made the officers of color 8 remain at home with pay? Well, eventually they filed, discrimination. And last time I checked on it, there was a settlement of approximately $1.5 million. This is true, people. It's still happening. Why? Why is it that we particularly are a threat? It is because they know that we can rise in the economy and society. So they have to help their own. They're afraid of our progress, that we can develop our own Wall Street. You know about the incident that happened back then when they bombed Tulsa, Oklahoma, and certain places where we was beginning to establish ourselves. And furthermore, in spite of it all, then we have Omar Arbery, 2020, remember? Greg and Travis McMichael, a father and son. They chased down a black man that was jogging in the neighborhood. He was an ex-police officer. And they chased him down and they shot him because they figured that he stole something in the neighborhood. A brother can't even jog in an elite area. So what is the consequence that is taking place? Nothing. Keep on marching. Keep on saying we want to have peace and things of that nature. I'm not trying to be radical. Nonetheless, our biggest problem as black people is our black leaders. I hate to talk about the black preacher. Lord, don't let me go there. Don't let me talk about the black. I got to talk about the black preachers. There are so much coward. Not all of them, but the majority of them and those who are really prospering in the land. They should always be the first one leading the group. Remember Martin Luther King? He knew what was right to lead, regardless if it was integration, segregation, regardless, at least he tried to lead us. These guys, they're all for themselves. And what's the saying? If you're a Christian preacher, we need to be like Jesus. Liar, hypocrite. You know you're nothing like Jesus. Jesus was one of the most greatest revolutionists to ever walk the earth. His assignment was to do his father's business. And what was the business of his father, of Almighty God, and also the father of Adam, according to St. Luke, the 3rd chapter, verse 38. What is the solution? The solution is you got to walk for your culture. The religion is supposed to match the culture. Jesus was going against the churches, which was the Judaism, and he was going against Rome. For who? For who? Who was he fighting for? The poor and brokenhearted, the sinners. Whereas, what was the result? What was the ramification? An execution, a death penalty on Mount Calvary. You cannot live in this world and not fight for your culture as a religious leader all throughout history. That's why God had to raise a prophet, whether it's Moses. And how can you resolve this? They have to provide land for the once slaves. And they know this. They have to give us land, not money. The reparation must be land. And they knew this. That's why when they discovered that Hitler had slaves, I'm not going to allow the word Holocaust chase or high slavery. They were doing free labor. We were, there's a Holocaust here. Our Holocaust was on the voyage, come across the sea in chain, 100-degree weather underneath the boat, which almost double it. Nonetheless, 1948, they provided land for the European Jews that was in slavery. And they gave them ammunition to protect their land. And they started war with it today. And they know for us to be able to prosper, we have to show the world globally that we do not need the assistance and help of our formal masters. We can't keep fighting other countries to remain on the plantation. Either they give us some states here, and I'm not talking about the Nation of Islam segregation. I'm just saying just colonize, which means we just have land that we can call ourselves. But anyone's welcome. But just make sure it's our land, as they did the slaves under Hitler when they rescued them. Same thing. If they do not want to give it to us here, then do as they did the European slave, send us somewhere else, even if it's back home, and give us the ammunition with its need. And in the name of God, Allah, Yahweh, Elohim, Dios, then we'll protect our own people and bring God's law back to the land. And then we won't have to deal with this chaos and pandemonium and cataclysm in this country. And the worst is yet to come because of the LGBTQ movement. Taking our covenant, which is the bow, according to Genesis, the 9th chapter, when God called the black family off the ark and said, "This is my covenant to you, Noah, and your 3 sons throughout all generations." And who took our covenant? Yes, people that cannot decide which gender they want to be. A mockery. But I'm not going to detail that too much. But in the meantime, I want you to substantiate a strong mind and predicate how powerful God is when he shall lead us and guide us to all truth. And do not allow the enemy, and do not be afraid of these KKK. I don't care what they are wearing. They want you to fear them. Don't fear them. Regardless, don't fear. Don't allow them to cause you to run amok. You should not be able to run amok no matter what. Although they're a disservice to us, it's a shame. You probably better off calling your neighbor. Once again, be blessed. Be safe. And be careful out there.